as every week, we gather a whole lot of scumbags and we come here to talk to you about them. And you suggest many scumbags, and we've been really enjoying your messages on that. So, ladies, scumbag of the week, Barb, let's start with you.
I'm going to do a triad here. We're going to do, instead of the quad, we'll do three people. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California right now, unless hopefully he just left. Karen Bass, who is the mayor of LA. And Joe Biden, as they like to say on SNL. The three of you have been in utter disappointment. I think what you're doing is actually criminal. I am currently a resident of Los Angeles, and I am terrified to go home and breathe in the air of all the chemicals that you've just decided to spray all over, not to mention just the utter lack of responsibility of leadership. Where's your Rudy Giuliani cojones or your Ron DeSantis-ness coming out right now? I'm sorry to go right on this, but
DeSantis-ness, like
the biggest thing I want to call all three of you out on is not condemning arson. Now, you may say, oh, it's all just out of our hands. It's the global warming. It's all of you right-wing people. Don't make this political. You keep saying yourself that the right has made this political. It's not political, like Shoshana said earlier, to have people working together and doing whatever it takes to save human life. Why aren't you out there with a megaphone getting water from people's bathtub? Like, why are you not doing anything? It's just criminal, and I'm so disgusted by you not calling people out. And the arsonists have no reason to stop if they're actually doing it. And I have seen video footage of people doing it. I believe it. And it's just so soft on crime. And I'm so disgusted with all of you.
But it's that
do better.
It's great, but the whole state has been like this for the last, God knows how long. You can steal up to $1,000 and not have any criminal consequences to face.
This is why they're saying it's partisan, because if they're calling out, and I don't believe that the majority of these fires are caused, or, I haven't seen proof that they're even extended because of these incidents of arson, but it is happening. And there are videos. And the reason they don't want to condemn it is because that requires admitting that they have so many other failed policies, including a mental health crisis across all of the United States, which is why you see people...
We paid so much money to try to stop. And it makes me think, like a tinfoil hat person, that they might actually be, God forbid, in compliance with it. It really freaks me out.
There's looting as well. That's what
I'm going to say. Every time we have a major incident like this, whether it be Black Lives Matter, whether it be, climate protests, whether it be what we're seeing right now as a result of the fires, every time there's something major, we see this kind of behavior, and it's increasing in the United States, and it's increasing particularly in New York and California. Now, what do New York and California have in common? Really, really bad government. And this is not even a partisan issue. It's an issue of having bad governments and bad governance and bad policies when it comes to dealing with basic issues that protect civilians on the street, whether they're right or left or black or white or anything else.
I believe that goes back to a lack of religious philosophy, any sort of fundamental beliefs about basic human rights and civil rights. And I think the Noahide laws would be a great comeback for New York and California. It's unfortunate that we have people voting for things because they love animals and they love the climate change situation so much. They don't love it, but they love the environment so much, but they're not talking about basic human life issues. And it's really scary that they play politics, and then this is unfortunately what winds up happening.
The wrong priorities. Well, they are worthy scumbags this week. Indeed. Indeed. Shoshana.
Oh, completely different tack, because my guy, I don't know, this guy went from Iraq to UK, who the hell knows where he is at the moment, but he's stirring up a lot of anti-Semitism on his Instagram account, which has almost 800,000 followers. His name is the Bruce TV. And he had the chutzpah to post a video about how there's 28,900 Jews living in Amsterdam, and they should be skewered through the neck.
29,800 Jews approximately live in Amsterdam since 15th century, after they got kicked out from Spain and Portugal for doing LGQ HD TV shit. They be living safely and peacefully until the other day. Give them long Arab kebab in the mouth.
I mean, this is a call for violence, and it's actually criminal, and he should be arrested. He should be arrested.
Yeah.
And what was his reasoning for the neck?
No, he doesn't like Jews.
Oh, no. Not only does he not like Jews, but he believes that we are all complicit in the world's problems, in, obviously from Gaza to...
Maybe Hitler.
the fires, maybe. But there's no shortage of people who are connecting the fires to. And I think that the idea of free speech is a great one, but the idea of saying, go stab a Jew through the neck, or he says skewer, and it's not taken down when advocating for the Israeli hostages is often taken down off of social media. So how this is still up for, I think, over a month.
What is
In a city that had a pogrom.
is he a Pharaoh? He's Dutch?
Yeah, he's from Iraq, and he lived in UK, and maybe now he's, I don't know, he doesn't say exactly.
People are going to jail for putting much less than that on social media, which is crazy.
Is even an option. So please go get him. Thank you.
Yes, okay. So yeah, well, we all know what happens to these scumbags in the end. It's not good for you. Emily, who's your scumbag this week?
Well, I have a lot of scumbags this week because my topic of scumbag is all of the people who are linking whatever is happening in Gaza to the LA fires. Now, some of them are celebrating it. Some of them are claiming that it's karma. The Islamic Republic of Iran, in their official regime newspaper, called it an act of God, an act of revenge from God for Israel's activities in Gaza and Lebanon, because that makes total sense. HTS, who just helped take over Syria, they also issued a statement saying that this was somehow justice. So we see a lot of celebration from crazy Islamists on this issue. But I just want to highlight one in particular, Francesca Albanese, who is a repeat scumbag. Also on our top list of scumbags of last year, she continues in her trajectory of hate. So she was retweeting Mondoweiss, another raging anti-Semitic publication, claiming that the fires in Palestine and Los Angeles are the same thing. And of course, Francesca retweets this, saying that in our planet, all injustices are connected. All of them except, of course, UNRWA kidnapping and taking part in the October 7th massacre, teaching hatred and terrorism in their schools, storing rockets in their schools inside the Gaza Strip, having tunnels under their buildings, having the head of their teachers union in Gaza also be a Hamas commander, and of course, the hostages. All of those are not connected because apparently those are not injustices to Francesca Albanese. So Francesca and all of the folks who are spewing this vile nonsense about comparing Gaza to the fires in LA, shame on you. You're my scumbags of the week.
Well, they deserve it. And let me just tell you, if I want to see a change when Trump comes into office and our friend Elise Stefanik takes over as the UN ambassador, is firing this woman. Just threaten not to give any money to the UN. Elise Stefanik, we met and we love you here. Please get this woman, Francesca Albanese, fired. We will come and put out the red carpet all over the old city for you. Please get this woman fired because she does not deserve to work in this organization. Not that the organization is much better, but she's a particularly bad faith actor in that organization. Okay, great scumbag. Thank you, Emily. And I'm going to do a bit of a retro scumbag, only because I'm going to connect it to my hero in a minute. And that is the Clooneys.
Oh, the Clooney. He is from the 80s. He's right.
Sure. George and Amal Clooney. And let me tell you why, because I think it's like closing a circle now that Biden is leaving office. Let me tell this story for those of you who don't really understand what's happened and how scumbaggy they both are. Okay, let's start with George. George Clooney is a big funder of the Democratic Party. He also wields a lot of power in the Democratic Party. And he was all behind Biden until the debate, when everybody realized what many people had known for months and months and months, and that is that the poor guy was not fit to be in office, and certainly not run for office. He'd been propped up by the whole machinery of the Democratic Party until they realized they couldn't get away with it. So George Clooney went from being a big fan and a big supporter of Biden to being the guy that Nancy Pelosi put up to actually start the downfall of the Biden second run. How did he do that? He did a big fundraising event and said that the money wouldn't go, something like that, the money wouldn't go to the Biden campaign. And so that was the beginning of the end for Biden. George Clooney was put out there by Nancy Pelosi to be the fall guy for getting Biden out of the way. Now, I wonder what the incentive was for George Clooney to be so involved in this. Well, the incentive was that his wife, Amal, too skinny Clooney, was was one of the judges at the ICC that decided that it was a great idea, even though they broke with protocol and they broke with procedure, and they did it in a schemy way to put out arrest warrants for Bibi Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant, the previous defense minister. Really, no arrest warrants for Assad, who killed 500,000 of his own people, Putin, who invaded a whole other country. Nothing like that, nothing going on with the Chinese people, the Chinese leaders who are doing a Holocaust to their Uyghurs. Nothing. Amal Clooney is part of the gang of anti-Semites that decides that, yes, it's a good idea to put arrest warrants out for the Israeli leaders who are fighting a defensive war that we didn't start. And why was George worried about that? Because historically, the United States of America have sanctioned ICC judges for putting out such arrest warrants, especially when they were threatening to put out arrest warrants for American service people, for American government officials, for Afghanistan. And it was only the threat of that that stopped the ICC from issuing warrants for American leaders. But of course, George Clooney convinces Biden not to use his power to put out any or to threaten sanctions. Biden doesn't do it. Then George Clooney realizes that Biden's not going to win, and God help him and his wife under Trump. So then he pushes Biden out of the way and decides to back up Kamala Harris. He does it in a horrible way. And the great ending to this story is not just that, of course, Trump is now in office. And so this whole thing to avoid the sanctions on his wife and to freeze her bank accounts, and by doing that, your bank accounts, George Clooney, is that today, this week, the Congress, the House of Representatives, decided to actually sanction ICC top leadership and judges. So all of that scumbaggery got you nowhere. You're still my scumbags, George and Amal Clooney.
Karma's real.
Oh my God, it really is. But look at this story.
I had no idea.
Just a shame. Amal Clooney, I actually really respect it because of her work on Armenian genocide. And I think that there's such an important role for people like that.
Yeah.
But when you pervert international law in order to pursue an anti-Semitic agenda, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And now she can't shop in Bergdorf Goodman's with her credit card from America. Oh, I'm loving it. Scumbag of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, now let's end our wonderful evening, no, morning, midday. What are we?
Whenever you idea. There's no windows in this place.
It's like Las Vegas. It's like Las Vegas. No windows.
No windows.
A wonderful day, a wonderful session today with Heroes of the Week. And we'll start with you, Shoshana. Who's your hero?
My heroine is a woman from the larger pro-Israel community who unfortunately passed away. Olga Washington, a South African native, attorney, connector, author, and pro-Israel advocate. She was a very eloquent speaker in her own right, and certainly for Israel and for the Jewish people. And it is devastating that she left us at the very young age of 44, leaving a family. Her husband is also a wonderful pro-Israel advocate, and the entire community mourns her death. And we should honor her work and what she did, and her family, with the work, continuing the work that she did and honoring her position in it. And she is a very worthy heroine. I know that everyone here had, to some degree, knew Olga, and I open the floor if anybody wants to say something.
Her father was he's a member of parliament in South Africa, one of the few voices that we have who are really advocating for actual justice in South Africa or in Israel or beyond. The whole family have been really steadfast Christian allies for the cause, and it's a huge loss. I mean, Olga is really just one of the most impressive speakers, most eloquent speakers I've ever heard. She did a lot of work combating the apartheid myth, obviously as a Black South African woman herself. She really, and an attorney who focuses on these issues, she really has unparalleled levels of knowledge on this issue, and she did a lot of work to speak out against these blood libels that people spread about Israel. So it was a very sudden passing. She had a health issue that just popped up kind of out of nowhere, and everyone was very, very shocked, I think, from the community. Huge loss. Huge loss.
Body was really, really devastated, which shows how much she was loved.
She was loved, and I always wished, and I would tell her this in voice notes and to her husband, Joshua, I'm thinking of you. I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. But the two of them and Joshua's father, too, they're constantly going out and putting themselves out on a limb and getting death threats constantly for helping Jewish people. And I always say, like, you're such righteous Christians. Like, why would you do all this? And why aren't you more famous? And they say, we're not doing it for the fame. We're not doing it to get likes. We're doing it because we really care, because the Jewish people really have a huge place in this world. And it's devastating. Yeah, she was way too young, way too soon.
Hero. She deserves a tribute, and she deserves your airtime, and she deserves people to know who she. Look her up if you don't know who she is. Take a moment and share some of her work.
Thank you, Shoshana. That's lovely. Gail. Emily.
Well, mine is a little bit different, a little bit less serious, I'll say. But you know, Gal Gadot, she's taken a little bit of heat in the past few weeks, weirdly from other Israelis. She attended the Golden Globe Awards, and a lot of people in Israel criticized her for not wearing the pin of the hostages, the yellow ribbon pin. Of course, this pin is also used for many other causes and things over the years, including now. But they, were furious with her for not doing this. And this is less than 24 hours after she posted like an entire video on her social media, which of course has tens of millions of followers, more so than any other individual Israeli. So I was a little bit taken aback by the sort of, I don't know if I want to brand it as ungratefulness, but ungratefulness for what Gal Gadot has done. She has been a proud, outspoken Jew. She's been a proud, outspoken Israeli. She's spoken openly about her military service and the values and the ethics of the IDF, despite tremendous pressure in that particular industry and serious financial consequences that can come from doing things like that and being outspoken. And despite that, she has done that. She's been a class act from day one with almost every single example of her in the public eye, absolute example of class. And I'm incredibly disappointed and strongly condemn the people who have lashed at her over the past week over something so silly. Gal Gadot, you are a Wonder Woman still. For all of us here in Israel, we support you and keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. In Israel, it feels like everybody's just looking to see, especially the Israeli press, how to catch you out. This woman did a showing of Sheryl Sandberg's movie about sexual crimes in Hollywood. She's put herself out there, like Emily said, and it's not easy. Many people, we've been congratulating people who haven't gone on the other side, and she's been steadfastly.
Yeah, she also
guys,
a huge,
if I'm not mistaken, Yellowstone, or it was a diamond, but a Yellowstone ring for the hostages. And as an activist for a very long time, sometimes the blatant activism backfires a little bit. And sometimes when you do it in a different way and you get people asking questions like, oh, what's that yellow? Oh, that's for the hostages. Oh, all of a sudden there's like a whole nother way of talking about exactly. And so and also it's just gross to go after. So why are you going to go after? And the woman had a brain surgery a few months ago, right after having a baby. Good God. We don't have enough enemies, guys.
Right. And for what you're wearing, do better. We have enough October 6th that we talk about a lot. Stop hurting each other over petty things. Let's talk about the big things. Okay, if you're going against Israel, that's something different. But if it's something you're wearing.
Be kind. This woman's got the largest following of any Israeli, I think, today. And she's using it for the good.
Part of the reason we saw this, as you know, we discussed privately that there are a lot of people who are jealous of her success, including in Israel, including in the media, and they latched onto this in order to get their name out there with Gal Gadot.
She's had 4 kids, and look at
I'm
her.
jealous too, but I love it.
4 kids, and look at you. All right, no, but we do love Gal Gadot, and we're not going to be put off by those people who are trying to bring you down. We're with you, sister. Okay.
My hero?
Yes.
I love talking about heroes. I like that word. Kemi Badenoch. I hope I'm saying this correctly. She's an MP, I believe, from the UK.
She's the leader of the Conservative Party.
Leader of the Conservative Party and an MP. I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my neshama, my soul, for calling out Keir Starmer and the Labour government in the UK for not demanding a national inquiry for the poor girls who were systematically raped for the last several years, and the local governments and the cops who covered it up. It's disgusting. People, just labeling this inquiry as Islamophobia. I don't know, maybe I'm going to be the first person to say that I am Islamophobic. I'm afraid of what's becoming of Islam. It's disgusting, and it's okay to say I'm afraid. It's really okay. And I'm so sick that people are yelling at you and you're getting death threats. It's terrifying. Keep going, girl. We are behind you. We need more of that outside of Israel so that people can see this is a global problem. It's not going away. And do you know how they start to take over the Western side by people saying, well, Islamophobic, so I can't say anything because it might hurt a couple of Muslims. It's not, Muslims want you to call it out. So let's do this.
Yeah.
There's a phobia of Islamophobia in the UK. That's what's happening.
Exactly.
Kemi is really great, and on Israel, she's spot on. She couldn't be better. She couldn't be better.
That entire, I was listening, I mentioned to Flo that I was listening to Barry Weiss's podcast, and then she had on, I forgot the names, I'm sorry, I'm so bad at names. That she had Ayan and another woman who's a British activist who started calling out the rapes years ago. And I had no idea how layered this was. Cops, social workers, local government, top government. I mean, I was just crying in the car listening how nauseating these girls were abandoned at every level because they were slags. They were, in America, you'd call them white trash, okay? Or I wouldn't call them white trash, but people would call them white trash. Poor, white, sometimes dysfunctional, sometimes just poor, but they were completely abandoned by the tens of, I had no idea that there were thousands, there were 1,400 just in Rotterdam, if I'm not mistaken. There were thousands across the country. It was decades, from what I understand. It is so shocking, and kol hakavod for calling it out, but also heads need to roll. Heads need.
I think it's really alarming that in some of these Muslim communities that this is the norm perspective of women who are not Muslim.
Yeah.
Like the idea, and there's tons of videos of them speaking about this, even writing about it publicly. They have no problem saying that because there's a dehumanization element. I was just talking about this morning that the way that they view a non-Muslim woman is actually reminded me of how Nazis viewed Jewish women, because it's the level of dehumanization.
Yes,
they are no longer human beings to many of these communities, and that's what's being taught.
And what about Muslim women? Rwan is trying to prove that you can't get arrested, I believe, in most of the Arab countries today because of rape. It's not.
Husbands can rape their wives, and there's nothing. And beat them. We had Yasmin Mohammed here talking about her trauma with her marriage. It's just awful. And this is what the world should be dealing with. And this is all, where's the whole hardcore of this? In the Islamic Republic of Iran, where women are humiliated, beaten for doing way less than just not covering their hair. So world, if you want to do something, stop focusing on us and focus on the real problems. But they are definitely hero. Kemi Badenoch is definitely a hero. She's really a badass woman. I like her a lot. Okay, so my hero, which is the other side of the Clooney's being the scumbags, are the two men that actually got the ICC sanctions passed in the House of Representatives. They still don't have the House until next week, the upper chamber. Brian Mast, who has been appointed the head of the Foreign Relations Committee, and Mike Johnson, who is the majority leader, I think, of the House. And they got this through, and it wasn't simple. They did have the House of Representatives. They don't have the upper chamber, but they will next week. But this is the beginning of freezing those bank accounts, of putting these people to notice, and maybe making it so difficult for them to be so blatantly anti-Semitic in their Dreyfus trial that maybe we can get these arrest warrants dismantled, and maybe we can get the whole court dismantled, because it's a ridiculous. And I love that, I said months ago kangaroo court, and I was asked on the radio, well, that's a bit harsh. I think it was a BBC interview, of course. Well, I'm very happy that Mike Johnson also called it a kangaroo court. So thank you so much for standing up for truth, calling it for what it is, and actually doing something about it, and making these people scared of messing with America and America's allies. So they're my heroes, Brian Mast and Mike Johnson. Very well. And on that note, ladies, we go through another week and we pray, and maybe this is the week that our hostages will come home to be with their families, to get out of that hellhole. We pray and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you for watching.